Howdy folks, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're saddling up and heading west for a look at a time in American history that never fails to capture the imagination. The Wild West. We're talking about the real deal, the gritty, dusty, and often dangerous reality of life on the American frontier. We're gonna dig into 10 fascinating facts about this era that you might not know. From the grit of the gold rush to the legends of famous outlaws, we're covering it all. So, grab your Stetson, shine your spurs, and get ready to explore the untamed spirit of the Wild West. Let's get dirty. Our journey begins with a word that sent a shiver of excitement down the spines of folks all across this great nation: gold. The discovery of gold in California back in 1848 sparked a frenzy we call the gold rush. Imagine, hundreds of thousands of people from shopkeepers to schoolteachers dropping everything and risking it all for a chance to strike it rich. These folks faced treacherous journeys across unforgiving landscapes, and find it they did. It led to a massive westward expansion, with folks settling down and establishing towns and cities. The gold rush left an indelible mark on the American West, shaping its landscape, its people, and its future. The Wild West wasn't all about hard work and honest living. It had its fair share of outlaws and gunslingers, folks who lived by their own rules. Names like Jesse James and Billy the Kid became legends. These figures were as complex as the times they lived in. Despite their crimes, they became symbols of the Wild West, representing a life lived on the edge. Now imagine a world without the internet, without phones, without even the telegraph. That was the reality for folks in the early days of the Wild West. Communication was slow, unreliable, and often took months. That is, until the Pony Express rode in, changing the game completely. Picture this: young riders, some barely old enough to shave, galloping across the vast expanse of the American West on horseback, carrying with them not gold or guns but something far more valuable: information. The Pony Express was a relay mail service that stretched over 1,800 miles from Missouri to California. These riders faced scorching deserts, treacherous mountain passes, and the ever-present threat of bandits and hostile Native American tribes. The Pony Express cut the time it took to send a letter from the East Coast to the West Coast from months to just 10 days. Can you imagine the impact? News traveled faster, businesses could communicate more effectively, and families separated by thousands of miles could stay in touch. The Pony Express became a symbol of American ingenuity, courage, and determination, showing the world that even the wildest frontiers couldn't stand in the way of progress. Now, we can't talk about the Wild West without talking about the folks who called this land home long before any European settler set foot on it: the Native Americans. The West wasn't some empty, unclaimed territory. It was, and still is, home to a diverse tapestry of Native American cultures, each with their own unique history, traditions, and way of life. From the Lakota Sioux who roamed the Great Plains to the Apache of the Southwest, these tribes were inextricably linked to the land, relying on it for their survival and respecting its delicate balance. They were skilled hunters, farmers, and warriors, with their own complex social structures and spiritual beliefs. The arrival of settlers from the East disrupted the lives of these Native American tribes in ways that are difficult to fully comprehend. The settlers brought with them diseases that ravaged native populations, and their hunger for land led to conflict and displacement. Treaties were signed and broken, battles were fought, and entire cultures were threatened with extinction. Despite the hardships they faced, many Native American tribes showed incredible resilience, adapting to the changing times while striving to preserve their cultures and traditions. Imagine, if you will, a single invention that could shrink vast distances, connect communities, and transform the very fabric of a nation. That's exactly what the Transcontinental Railroad did for the American West. Before the railroad, traveling west was a long, arduous, and often dangerous journey. It could take months to cross the country by wagon train, facing harsh weather, dwindling supplies, and the constant threat of disease and attack. But the Transcontinental Railroad changed everything. Thousands of laborers, many of them Chinese immigrants who faced harsh discrimination and dangerous conditions, toiled tirelessly to lay down the tracks mile after grueling mile. And when those tracks finally met on May 10, 1869 at Promontory Summit, Utah, it was a moment of national celebration. The Transcontinental Railroad didn't just transport people, It transported goods, ideas, and dreams. It facilitated trade, spurred economic growth, and helped to populate the West. Now let's talk about a man who took the Wild West and turned it into a spectacle, a larger-than-life extravaganza that captivated audiences across America and beyond. William Frederick Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill. Buffalo Bill was a man of many talents: Army scout, bison hunter, and showman extraordinaire. He understood the public's fascination with the Wild West, and he capitalized on it by creating Buffalo Bill's Wild West, a traveling show that brought the excitement, danger, and romance of the frontier to life. Imagine a massive arena filled with the sights and sounds of the Wild West. There were cowboys and Indians, sharpshooters and trick riders, buffalo hunts and stagecoach robberies, all meticulously choreographed and performed with theatrical flair. Buffalo Bill was a master showman, and his Wild West show was a sensation. It toured for decades, bringing the Wild West to millions of people who would have otherwise never experienced it. The show featured real-life figures from the Wild West, including the legendary sharpshooter Annie Oakley and the Lakota leader Sitting Bull. Buffalo Bill's Wild West show was more than just entertainment. It was a cultural phenomenon that helped to shape the way people viewed the American West. In the Wild West, someone had to keep the peace. Enter the lawmen, sheriffs, marshals, and rangers. They stood between good folks and outlaws, facing danger in dusty streets and saloons. Tough and resourceful, they were as handy with a six-shooter as a badge. Legends like Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, and Wild Bill Hickok became synonymous with frontier justice. Wyatt Earp's role in the gunfight at the OK Corral cemented his place in Wild West lore. The life of a lawman was dangerous and often short-lived, yet they played a crucial role in taming the frontier. When we think about the Wild West, we often picture grizzled cowboys, daring outlaws, and stern-faced lawmen. But the West was built by folks of all kinds, including remarkable women who defied expectations. These were tough, resourceful women who faced hardship with grit and determination. Think about Annie Oakley, the sharpshooting sensation, or Calamity Jane, a frontierswoman and scout, and Stagecoach Mary, a fearless mail carrier. These women challenged traditional roles and faced danger with courage. So, remember the unsung heroines of the West who paved the way for future generations. Now, let's talk about an iconic image of the Wild West, the cattle drive. Imagine thousands of cattle, horns lowing, hooves kicking up dust, stretching as far as the eye can see, herded across miles of open range by a handful of cowboys. It's a scene straight out of a Hollywood Western, but the reality of the cattle drive was far less glamorous. The cattle drive was born out of necessity. After the Civil War, there was a high demand for beef in the East, and Texas was overflowing with longhorn cattle. The problem was getting those cattle to market, and that's where the cowboys came in. Cowboys were the lifeblood of the cattle drive. They were skilled horsemen, able to control their mounts and herd cattle across vast distances. They worked long, grueling hours, facing scorching sun, freezing rain, and the ever-present threat of stampedes and cattle rustlers. Life on the trail was tough. Cowboys slept under the stars, bathed in rivers, and subsisted on a diet of beans, bacon, and coffee. The era of the great cattle drives was relatively short-lived, lasting only a couple of decades, but it left an indelible mark on the American West. Our journey through the Wild West ends in the haunting silence of ghost towns, remnants of a bygone era that stand as silent sentinels to the boom and bust cycles of the frontier. Scattered across the American West, these abandoned towns are like open-air museums, their crumbling buildings and deserted streets whispering tales of dreams realized and lost. Imagine a town bustling with life, saloons overflowing with prospectors, shops doing a brisk trade, and the sound of hammers ringing out as new buildings are erected. Then imagine that same town, just a few years later deserted, its buildings boarded up, its streets empty, save for the wind whistling through the broken windows. That was the fate of many boom towns that sprung up practically overnight during the gold rush and other resource booms. Today, these ghost towns are eerie reminders of the ephemeral nature of fortune and the enduring power of time. Some ghost towns have been preserved as historical sites offering a glimpse into the past, while others are slowly being reclaimed by nature, their wooden structures succumbing to the elements. Well folks, there you have it. 10 fascinating facts about the Wild West. A time and place that continues to capture our imaginations. It was a time of great change, of hardship and opportunity, of larger-than-life characters who lived and died by their own code. But more than anything, the Wild West reminds us that the past is never truly gone. Thanks for saddling up and joining me on this journey. Until next time, stay curious, my friends.